A lot has changed for the Indian team, and I really mean a lot. Just one defeat, and the team that was looking the most formidable unit is now suddenly looking feeble and vulnerable. You thought that India just needed to win their matches. You thought it'll be 3 wins out of 3 in the Super 8 stages. They'll be cruising into the semi-finals. The script has completely changed now because of not just a defeat. It was a heavy defeat. It was a hammering that India got from South Africa that's taken their net run rate to a negative 3.8. And now suddenly the qualification scenario for the Indian team has changed. Not only do they now need to win their next 2 matches, but they'll also have to keep an eye out on the other results. They'll be looking very carefully at what the West Indies do, at what Zimbabwe end up doing. They've already thrown in a couple of surprises by beating Australia and Sri Lanka. So Zimbabwe's results will also be looked at very closely from the Indian team. But what are the two broad things that the Indian team need to do now to be able to qualify for the semi-finals? You cannot be expecting any numbers at this stage because teams are still playing their first matches in the Super 8 stage. However, you can have a broad idea of what that qualification scenario looks like for the Indian team. And here I'm going to break that thing down for you. Now, first things first, as I had said, the first and foremost thing to be done by the Indian team, and there is no getting away from this one, no getting away from the fact that you need to beat a Zimbabwe on the 26th, a very important date. I'll tell you why. And then the West Indies on March the 1st. The good thing with the West Indies game is you will know exactly what you need to do because it also happens to be the last game of the Super 8 stage. But why I say that 26th of February is a real clincher is because that day it's a 7 p.m. game, as has been the thing with the Indian team throughout this tournament. Evening matches have belonged to them. So by the time that India take on Zimbabwe, the South Africa West Indies match would have taken place. It starts at 3 o'clock, and that is something that you and I will have to keep a very close watch on. Ideally, if you ask me, you would want South Africa to go ahead and win their remaining 2 matches, beat Zimbabwe, beat West Indies. Why beat West Indies? Because if the West Indies end up beating South Africa, then you could have potentially a scenario where there'll be 3 teams locked at 4 points. And India, by the way, have a big job to do. It is an uphill task for the Indian team to correct their net run rate, and you don't want to be competing with too many teams. Yes, it almost looks inevitable that you perhaps could be competing against West Indies when it comes to net run rate, but you don't want a South Africa in the mix. The other thing that India need to do is hope that South Africa beat West Indies to avoid the net run rate complications, as I just said. Let's also at this point have a look at what the table looks like. Of course, this is after yesterday's result. You're still awaiting West Indies and Zimbabwe to complete their first matches, which will happen by tonight, and then again this table takes a new turn. But at the moment, a negative 3.800 for the Indian team spells trouble. What they need to do is just get their act together now. It's been awful, the start to the Super 8 stage, but as I've said, and as I will reiterate as well, you should not be doubting the caliber of this Indian team. You should not suddenly be losing all your hope. Yes, things have become tricky, but that doesn't mean one defeat and your campaign is over. The campaign is very much alive. You need to get things right, and it can still be done. The title can be defended. The semi-final spot can be sealed. So that's what the Indian team needs to do. This is what the semi-final qualification looks like. Do give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to Sports Today.